In this video, I'm going to continue working my way slowly through the book of Revelation, looking at the Greek text, reading it, doing a grammatical analysis verse by verse with a translation and commentary. As we come to this section, it's a very challenging section, and I want to quote again from Bruce Metzger, Breaking the Code, Understanding the Book of Revelation. I appreciate his comment on this chapter. He writes on page 86, in chapter 18, John describes the fall of Rome with pathos and realism. The literature of the world contains few passages that compare in dramatic power with this dirge over the fallen city. Like the tolling of a funeral bell, we hear the repeated lamentation, alas, alas, the great city. This is in chapter 18, verses 10, 16, and 19. Despite all her sins and crimes, there are many who mourn for her. The kings of the earth who had consorted with her weep and wail over her when they see the smoke of her burning. The merchants who became wealthy because of her great commerce and trade weep and mourn for her, since no one buys their cargo anymore. This is in 18, verse 11. And among their merchandise of luxuries, as well as necessities, there are slaves and human lives, verses 18 to 13, or chapter 18, verse 13. By mentioning slaves at the end of the list of commodities, John intends a climax. The essential inhumanity of Rome's exploitation of the empire clearly reveals itself by the constant flow of slaves from the provinces to the city of Rome. By John's time, slaves made up almost half the population of the city. So that's a brief summary of some of the chapter and what we will be looking at. I'm going to look at the Greek and basically read the Greek text and then work at the grammar as we're going through it. So we begin in verse 1. Mata talta edan alan angalan katabainanta ek tu uranu ekanta exousian megalin kahe ge ephotiste ektes doxes autu. After these things I saw another angel coming down out of heaven, having great authority, and the earth was made bright, was lit up out or from his glory. As we look at this verse, notice Adon is your aorist indicative active, first person singular from charao. So after these things I saw another angel, katabainanta, is from katabaino. It's a present participle active, accusative singular from katabaino. Coming down out of heaven, ekanta, having great authority. Ekanta is from echo. It's your present participle, accusative singular from echo. Both of these are going back to the Alan Angelon, another angel. So having great authority, and the earth, ephotiste, was lit up. This is from the root photizo, to light, or to bring to light. It's the aorist passive indicative, third person singular from photizo. So was lit up out of his glory. So the angel that is being described here as he descends and comes down lights up or illuminates the earth and gives a light, sort of like shining on the earth, John is saying. And then he's kai ekroxen en escura phone legon. That is, and he cried with a great voice, saying. Ekroxen is from kradzo. It is the aorist indicative active, third person singular from kradzo. So he cried with a strong voice, legon, saying. Legon is from Lego. It's the present participle active nominative masculine singular from Lego. And notice what he is saying. And here, John is referring to the Hebrew Bible, especially Isaiah 13, 21, and 34, 11, and 14 in referencing. And then also referencing Jeremiah 51, verse 7, and also Isaiah chapter 23. And I think what we're looking at here is the texts that deal with the fall of Babylon in those Hebrew texts. So he cried with a great voice. Ekroxen, as we said, is the aorist indicative active, third person singular from kradzo, saying, Epesen, Babylon he megale. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. Epesen is from pipto. It is the aorist indicative active, third person singular from pipto. So fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. And Babylon here clearly is a representation of Rome, which, as we've been looking at the book of Revelation, could also represent the world system through time. While specifically addressing Rome, it could also refer to the whole world system because it becomes quite futuristic at times too. So fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. And it has become egenata katoiketerion daimonion. It has become a habitation of demons. Egenata is your aorist indicative middle, third person singular from genomai. So it has become a habitation of demons, kai fulage pantas pneumatas, and actually this interesting word, a habitation of demons and a dwelling place or a haunt, we could say, uh, a like a prison, a haunt of every impure spirit. Pneumatas akathartu kai fulake pantas orneu akathartu, and a haunt or a like a prison or a haunt of every unclean bird. So in other words, it's an unclean place, I think is what he's saying. Kai fulage, and a prison or a haunt. Pantasteriu akatartu, a haunt of every uh, impure beast and hateful, having been hated, every hateful beast. So it's really an awful place, is what John is saying. It's like a haunt of all of these places, a prison of all of these places. Memise menu is from the root misao, and basically what we're looking at here is a perfect uh, passive participle genitive singular from misao. So it basically, of every hateful kind of beast. In other words, it's not a pleasant place because verse 3, Hate ek tu oinu tu thumu tes porneas altes pepokan pantata ethne kai hoi basiles tes gays met altes epornusan kai hoi imparoi tes gays ek tes dunamaos tu strenus altes epluteson. That is, because out of the wine, or from the wine of the wrath of the harlot. In other words, out of this wine of the sort of the wrath of the harlot, or the thumu, could be something like the passion of the harlot used here. All nations, pepbokan, have drank. And again, in verse 3, we're looking at how all nations have participated in this. And pipto, or pinno, I should say, have drunk. This is your perfect indicative active third person plural. So all nations have drunk. And the kings of the earth, kai hoi basiles tes gays, met altes epornusan. The kings of the earth have committed fornication. And here we have the aorist indicative active third person plural from pornuo. They all committed fornication. So Rome was the center of fornication, John is saying, spiritual and otherwise. Kai hoiem imparoi tes gays, and the merchants of the earth, ek tes dunamaos, out of her power, or out of her strength, tu stenus altes et pluteson. So out of the power of her, this word means strong, or we could almost say luxury, complacent luxury. Out of the power of her strenus altes, her complacent luxury, they became wealthy. Et pluteson is from pluteo. It is the aorist indicative active third person plural. And so It's looking at excessive luxury and self indulgence that nations have entered into with Rome. And basically, with their arrogance and their strength as well, but their arrogance and their excessive luxury, they became wealthy. And that could represent not just Rome, but possibly the whole world system that Rome maybe could be a type of. At least that's one perspective, not limiting it to just Rome historically alone. Because then we move on to verse 4. Kai ekusa alein phonein ek tu uranu legusan. That is, and I heard another voice out of heaven uh, saying. Notice ekusa is the aorist indicative active, first person singular from akuo. So I heard another voice out of heaven saying, Legusan, uh, and Legusan is from Lego. It is the present participle accusative feminine singular from Lego, saying, come out of her. Excelsatem ha laasmu ex altes. Hena me sug koinonesete tais hamartiais altes. Kai ekton plegon altes. Hena me labete. That is, come out of her. And notice excelsate is from exergamai. We have an aorist active imperative, second person plural. So come out of her, my people. And this is a reference back again to Jeremiah 51, verse 45, and also Isaiah 48 is referred to here, 50, and 52, verse 11. And I think the thought is John's encouraging the believers not to have anything to do with all of this wanton luxury and sin that was going on. And it could be applied again to the whole world system that even today, that the same exhortation would be given. Come out of her. Hina me sukoinonesete tes hamartiais altes. In order that you might not participate or fellowship with her sins. And here, sukoino nesete is your aorist active subjunctive from sukoinoneo, to be a partner in, that you may no longer be a co-partner with her sins, lest these plagues that are to come to you, and unless you share in her plagues or her wounds. Here again, ekton plegonautes kenem me labete. This is from Lambano. It is the aorist subjunctive, looking at the result of what can happen if you continue to not come out, I think is the thought. And this again is from Lambano. It is the aorist subjunctive second person plural from Lambano. It's used as a negative purpose clause here. And it's looking at uh, the believers being encouraged to have nothing to do with Rome and what was going on. I'm going to stop there. I'm trying to hold these so they're not too long. And the verses that follow is going to take some more time. So I think I'll stop. Thus far, what we're learning is he's addressing the Roman, he's talking about the Roman Empire and using Babylon of old as a type of the final evil system that Rome uh, meant to John. And can we say, can symbolize the whole world system. And Rome becomes a type of that. And the believers are encouraged to separate, lest they participate and fellowship together in the same lifestyle and worldview and so forth. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to try to hold this not more than 15 or 20 minutes. So we'll just continue on next time.